Recording.
All right. We're good? Good to go, huh?
We are good to go, Kim.
All right. Well, good morning, everybody, and thanks for coming along for another walk. This time at, I call it Dickens Farm, but actually it's the Lewis-Dickens Farm Nature Preserve. You'll only see that once when I show the trailhead sign, and I just generally refer to it as Dickens Farm because that's actually where we're going for the most part. I'll remind everybody that I have a very sensitive touch pad, so sometimes I inadvertently go forward, so I'll try not to do that on you too much, but if I leave a picture before I mean to, you'll see me hurrying backwards. I guess that's just the way life is. All right, so we are. This is the long view, and we'll go back to the road and start with our overview of a map. And oops. Okay, so what's going on here? Oh well. The little bars up there, I can't see where I'm pointing.
Well,
Can you see?
you're right at number 2. At
Okay,
the
here I am. I want to be
but
at
up there,
1.
yeah.
Okay. So this road right here, this is the main road. It's sometimes called Coonimus Road. I grew up knowing it as Cherry Tree Hill, and technically Coonimus, to me, my youth, Coonimus was just the dirt part that went to the beach. But the real landmark here is this pond right in the corner. So West Side Road comes down from the old Baptist, from the old church, and then makes a corner, and you can either go down the dirt road to the beach, which is Coonimus Road. You'll notice that pond, and the very next road on your, I see what's happening. The very next dirt road right here, number 1, is the beginning of the intersection of Dickens Farm Road and Coonimus, or Cherry Tree Hill, which I usually call it Cherry Tree Hill. Then we're going to just start down this road, and the first part of this walk is following a dirt road until we get to here, number 4, and it's a really wide road. It's the widest dirt road on Block Island. It's wider than Beacon Hill Road, and it services this subdivision that went in the 80s. But at point 4, we kind of leave the super highway dirt road and go to a regular good old Block Island dirt road. And then when we get to number 6, we actually leave the dirt road and go to the path. I show a little loop here. This is not an actual loop. This is my preferred way through the field, but if it's not mowed, you have to take the path, which is this way. And I will be following the path today. And just this little light green, this is an alternative. It's the Wind Dodge Preserve. Oops, there we go. See, I knew I'd do that. The Wind Dodge Preserve path, which is an alternative loop. So I recommend that people do this way first. Then when you're coming back, if you're tired, stay on the road. If you have a little more energy, take the loop back, and you'll see how that works. Most of this land, this is all Dickens Farm here, and it's connected to Lewis Farm here. And most of this property, a lot of this property was purchased in the late 1980s, and thus is called the Lewis-Dickens Preserve. Elizabeth Dickens and her family lived out here, and her property at her death eventually went to, was purchased and given to Bill Lewis. So it was a big conservation effort in the late 1980s, and thus the name Lewis-Dickens Farm. I'm partial to just calling it Dickens Farm. With that, we'll move on to our first stop, which is the Dickens Farm Road is hard to find, so you got to get this image emblazoned. It's a fairly wide dirt road with a tarmac beginning, big utility pole, a big no mopeds, faded no moped sign here, but nothing that says Dickens Farm Road. So you just have to go on faith. And as I said, the main road here is Cherry Tree Hill, and Warden's Pond would be over here. So you start down this road, and pretty soon you're going to get to this spot right there, which looks like that. That's number 2 on the map. And you have to choose whether or not you're going to go straight, go left, or go right. And if you go left, which way do you go? If you go left, you're going into this area, which is the wind dodge loop that I mentioned. If you go straight, you're going down a private driveway. And again, this is the wind dodge sign, and it's pretty obvious that this is the wind dodge. So for all the signage you have here, you have no Dickens Farm Road sign. So you'll know when you get there. But what you really want to do is go right. And it goes down, as I said, a dirt road, and happened to be some mowing people there last week. But as you go down this road, you have this beautiful sort of bank and stone wall, and what I consider to be the most beautiful chokecherry tree on Block Island. It is amazing. And it's just, I've never seen one so twisted. It was so many trunks, and it's really amazingly beautiful. And one of the reasons, I mean, I just like this tree. Trees are like friends around the island landscape to me sometimes. But Cherry Tree Hill gets its name from the chokecherries. In the early 1970s and 80s, there were really hardly any trees on Block Island. There were shrubs. Bayberry was prevalent, shad was prevalent, viburnum, but they weren't nearly as tall as they are now. The landscape was changing from farmland to shrubland. And the most trees on the island that weren't in people's yards, planted on purpose, were along the hill of Cherry Tree Hill, and they were these chokecherries. And that's why it's called Cherry Tree Hill, because they were all along, starting to go into Robin's Hollow and along Cherry Tree Hill. And this must be one of the oldest ones around. So it's just a great, beautiful tree. And if you go on this walk, don't forget to notice it. If you go, we're still on the main sort of the super highway of dirt roads. It goes down the hill by that chokecherry, and it bears to the left. And it's hard to see unless you're really tall. But the road is going along an edge of this sort of open wetland, water, swamp, marshy area, which right now the fall colors are starting to turn things, and it's really beautiful. In the wintertime, all the leaves are gone, and it's much easier to see into this open water little pond, and it's a great place for birds to hang out because there's a water source there. The first spotted turtle I ever saw was on the side of the road here, coming presumably out of this pond. It's a very muddy, mucky pond. It's got open water and marsh. It's swampy, and that's definitely the habitat for spotted turtles. So it's just beautiful to walk along this edge. And along the edge, you see lots of things, even if you can't always see into the water. Ferns, of course. I'm captivated by ferns this summer. And even now, there's some smaller ones and some larger ones along there. And all along, you can see them woven in and out. And they're just, this is just a beauty shot. I can't tell you anything about this fern, except that there it was standing up there. And at this particular view, you could see the top of the fern and the underside of the fern, and it looked almost like it was spiraling up. And of course, the underside is where the spores are, and that's what we're seeing here. And again, the spore pattern is very indicative of the particular species, of which I am not a professional, at least not yet. But the ferns are beautiful right now. The colors are amazing. Here's a different one of the smaller ferns that was in the same area. Again, the top view, and over here the bottom view with the spore pattern, which is different than the spore pattern on the one I just showed you before. So as this, a lot of this walk is about its beauty. And I often say, just notice the beauty and worry about the names later. Along the same area is the chokeberry, not to be confused with chokecherry. There's purple, red, and black chokeberries. I'm pretty sure this is the purple, but hence the question mark, just as a, because when I look at it closely, it looks red, but it's not as red as the red. And the leaves, I didn't look closely enough at the leaves when I was actually there, which I should have done. But I'm fairly certain this is the purple chokeberry. And this is also, it's in the genus Aronia. And a lot of times you see Aronia juice in the very high in antioxidants, and you see them in a lot of the health food stores for Aronia juice. Now you have to get a lot of berries, I think, to get a jar of that, but never mind. And then also along the edge is the sweet pepper bush, or the clethra. The sweet pepper bush we saw earlier in this series as a flowering plant, but here it is, it's seed pods. And each one of these was the flower, but now it's just a little seed pod left behind. And again, sweet pepper bush, always along, it likes to have its feet wet, so you'll always find it along, if you find it, there's water, if not standing, very near the surface. And it has a beautiful, wonderful fragrance. But that we are past the season of smelling, we're into the season of tasting and looking at how beautiful these plants are. Another plant along the side is clammy azalea. It is an azalea. It's known as swamp honeysuckle. It blooms just before the sweet pepper bush, and they overlap a little bit, but you can really tell that this is an azalea family. You can tell that the leaves are a little bit thicker, like a heath, like a rhododendron or an azalea, and here are its buds already getting ready for next summer. And this is what the flower will look like, and they're very sticky. That's why it's called clammy. The flower petals along here are very sticky hairs, so thus the clammy azalea. Along this side, right across from so if you're standing in that big dirt road, if you go to the left, you're seeing swamp edge, and you go to the right, and you're seeing the bank, dry bank with the hawkweed still blooming, not as strong as it was in the summer, but again, a hawkweed looks like a little dandelion, but its its basal leaves are very different in shape. So, and as we go along, still another plant along the edge is something called wild lettuce, which you're seeing now. These seed heads are almost like a milkweed, but not quite. Interestingly, the little flowers, when they're flower, are a little bit yellow, and now these are the seed tufts. Very raggedy leaves, which indicate, help you identify that it is wild lettuce. But it does have some of the same latex substance that milkweed has. So if you break off a branch of these, it will ooze white, milky material. And it has some of the same toxic properties. Interestingly, in folk medicine, this is used for respiratory, bits of this are used for respiratory ailments. And that is true also of butterfly weed, which is in the milkweed family, which has that same latex based white oozing substance, which is, too much of it is toxic, but I guess a little bit is good for your breathing and your respiratory ailments. So we'll leave the edge of the pond, and we'll start going to more dry land. And here's your next chance to make a wrong turn. Stay straight, continue straight on Dickens Farm Road, and take note of this boulder. That's a good landmark for you. Don't go, if you go this way, which is right, if you go right, you'll go into a pretty large housing development. And, it's very spaced out. It's not like, a bunch of little houses together. It's a bunch of big houses far apart. But it's not really where you want to be going. You want to go straight out to Dickens Farm. Again, along the way, you're starting to see berries that you haven't seen all summer. This is winterberry over here. They're just starting to get red. This is the plant that's known in about another 6 weeks when the leaves are off of everything on the island. And this is a beautiful gray, leafless shrub with bright red berries along. It is in the ilex family or the holly family, and you can sort of see that by the fact that the berries are clustered along the axils of the leaves. So here's a leaf, there's a berry. So just starting to redden up. That wasn't like that 3 weeks ago. And the bayberry, which we've also been observing all season, which started off chartreuse green and then turned lighter or darker green and then yellowish, blue. Now that you can really see the gray, blue-gray waxy bits on the bayberry. You can see the texture that these now have that they didn't have. Again, even a couple of weeks ago, bayberries weren't really looking like the bayberries that they are. And this waxy substance is the source for bayberry candles of yesteryear, I will say. Who knows? Maybe we'll have a bayberry candle in our. If things get really dull this winter, I'll set out to make a bayberry candle for one of these presentations. But not today. Moving on. So as you go along this road, eventually you'll get to this landmark, the Wind Dodge Trail. So you're still, the picture is taken as if you're standing on Dickens Farm Road, and it comes right out to the edge. You can see where they've broken the stone wall, and so that's the other end. So I pointed out where you could enter, and this is where you could exit. Or if when you go back, you want to go that way for an alternate route, it's very well marked again. And along this way, you'll also see some blue vervain, another wildflower that is, its form is very identifiable. And again, I guess this particular day, I was just really into shape and form and color. And here's an up close of the blue vervain flower spike. This one is, in fact, this one. And you can see these little tiny flowers, and each one of these, they bloom as they go up. Little tiny flowers just going up and up and up. And I'll admit that person. And so that's the blue vervain. Let's see. Trying to advance it, but it doesn't seem to want to go. Well, let's see here. Maybe if I go like that. Slight intermission here. Where was I? Right here. There we go. Still on the road. You're going to be seeing a lot of goldenrod as we go along. And they had lots of different forms and sizes of goldenrod. This one is on the road, and you can sort of get a sense that even though it's bent over, it should be upright, but it's bent over. It's very tall. It's hard to know exactly which one this is. It may very well be the tall goldenrod, but for now I'm just describing it as tall. And goldenrod comes in 3 basic forms. This is the branching form, and we'll see the other forms a little bit later. By the way, I should have mentioned, I forgot, I should have mentioned early on that you might be just keeping an eye on some of these photos for an orb that might be stuck in somewhere here and there. And I will say that we've already passed one of them. Sorry, I should have mentioned it. I should have alerted you earlier. Oh, as we go down the road that this big, tall, branching goldenrod is, you go a little bit further, you're going to come to this spot. And this is where you're going to leave the old Block Island Road, and we're going to go to the right. And there's a pathway goes right off here into the Dickens Farm Trail itself. This area is designated for parking, and there's no parking beyond this. And as you can see, it's relatively small. It can really only accommodate 2 or 3 cars. But the walk down the road is worth it. Don't bother parking unless you're dashing out to look for an orb and dashing back, which I don't recommend at all. It's all about the seeing. All right, so we're going to take our right at the sign there, and we're going to see the Lewis-Dickens Farm Nature Preserve Trailhead sign, which has all of its names. The sign could use a little sprucing up, I will say, but it is owned and managed by the Audubon Society of Rhode Island and the Nature Conservancy. And I love this. We don't see this on too many signs. It's dedicated to the memories of 2 native islanders for their love of this land. Clarence H. Lewis, which was Elizabeth Dickens. Clarence H. Lewis was the father of Bill and Rob Lewis. And it was Bill Lewis who worked with the various agencies to sell the parcel of this land that he owned, and Elizabeth Dickens. So in essence, Bill Lewis made sure that it was dedicated to his father and to Elizabeth Dickens, whose much of this land it was. So beautiful little sign, which could use a little touch up. So we'll leave the sign and then we'll go right away. There's a barway here to keep people from driving out there. Amazing that you would have to do that, but it does come out so that it can get mowed on occasion. And so we'll go, you can easily go around the barway, and my computer's not advancing quite the way it should be. And it seems to be associated with when somebody has come in. There we go. So go through the barway, and there you have what I can think of a more beautiful vista. Well, there's several of these vistas as we go into the Dickens Farm area. This part of the Dickens Farm is specifically owned by the Audubon Society of Rhode Island. Of course, the Nature Conservancy has an easement and works with them for the maintenance and care of this area. But the reason the Audubon Society was of Rhode Island was such an important part of this acquisition was that this is amazing habitat, open farmland habitat. And upland sandpiper and the grasshopper sparrow were both known to be nesting in this area. I've seen a upland sandpiper in this area, and it was in 1986 or 87 when the acquisition was being worked on, and we were leading walks out there to introduce people to the area and get them interested, and I haven't seen one out there since. We saved the land, but maybe not in time to save the birds' habitat here, but who knows, they may come back. Unfortunately, I did this walk last Thursday and took these photographs, and almost all of this green that you see are various types of goldenrod, and I was about a week early. I think if you're on Block Island, I would go to the Dickens Farm this week. It's going to be gorgeous with the yellow. I've always had a partiality for the late afternoon light, so a 4 o'clock walk, Dickens Farm. It's going to be beautiful, especially a day like today where it's an east wind, so it's not coming in your face the whole time when you're out here at Southwest Point at Dickens Farm. Lots of things to see as we're going along. If I look down in the grass, I saw several of these. Can you admit that person? Several of these little spider web. Okay, spider web sort of in the ground, and It's quite amazing. It's not like your normal spider web. I'm not, and if you're having a phobia for spiders, I would avert your eyes for a moment. It's not this type of spider, which is a wolf spider, which has been seen out. I did take this picture out in the Lewis-Dickens Farm area. It's not, this web on the left is not from that, I don't believe. I believe the web on the left is from something called a web nesting spider. Now I've just lost the name. Anyway, it's a spider that carries its egg sac in its jaws until they're ready to hatch, and then it builds this like webbing of connecting grass and leaves together like a little tent structure, and it will deposit its egg sac in that protective webbing, and then the young will hatch out and stay there for about a week, and the parent will be guarding over it the whole time to make sure that they are progressing along just fine. Nursery web spiders that make this kind of nursery web, a little webbing just for the raising of its young. And then these are wolf spiders. And in my reading, these are harmless on Black Island. I mean, they're nocturnal. They're kind of gruesome looking if you don't like spiders. They have a lot of eyes. They have 8 eyes up here. And in my favorite spider book is Spiders and Their Kin. It's got everything you'd ever want to know about spiders. I've never looked up a spider I couldn't find in that book. But it says that the wolf spider is particularly good for as a pet, in case anybody's into spiders as pets. Not for me. I prefer to see them nested among the hawkweed leaves. So we'll get rid of that, and we'll just cover it up with a beautiful, another type of goldenrod. I believe this is the rough-stemmed goldenrod. This is another one of the branching type. It's pretty tall, and the stem is very hairy, which thus the name rough-stemmed goldenrod. And it's branching off quite a bit. So I will not be attempting to name all the types of goldenrods, but I will point out the different forms. Of course, all the goldenrod that I was out there were abuzz. There were bees and insects everywhere, mostly bees. If you don't know, this is a honeybee with its fairly small striping on its back. This, I believe, is a common eastern bumblebee, but it's a bumblebee, if not exactly the common eastern. But I love this. Look at this. This is a pollen packet. This is all pollen that it's collected as it goes along and carrying on its legs. So when the other leg looks the same. So they're like saddlebags of pollen. And this bee was very large. And I think this might be the queen. Queen, because it was about half again as large as this one, and given that it has no yellow fur, quote fur here, and this little dot, it looked like when I looked it up it might be the queen. But goldenrod is good, very good for pollinators. Lots of things among the goldenrod. Early on we saw common yarrow, and this is yarrow, a couple of young plants of yarrow. And if you recall, yarrow has that very frilly leaves. These are getting a little dried out, so you can identify this as yarrow. But then here it is up here, past its bloom, but dried out. I mean, there is no better dried arrangement. You could get everything you wanted from a florist right here, just as long as you only pick a little bit. So there's the common yarrow, and of course then there's goldenrod and asters are known for their association. They start to bloom. The asters are a little later than goldenrod, but they're definitely starting. And so there we have and there was an author, Robin Wall Kimmerer, who wrote Braiding Sweetgrass, and one of the things that got her most interested when she was a young woman starting out in biology was, why do asters and goldenrod look so great together? And she was told that that wasn't a question for a biologist. She's gone on to be a leading biologist and speaker, author, and I think of her often when I look at goldenrod and asters together. Here's two different types of aster. One sort of more club-like with branches with bunches, and then one a little bit more spread out. I'm pretty sure this is the New England aster. It has slightly smaller ones. The New York aster comes a little later. It's a little bit more purple, if I have it right. Again, beautiful to see mixed in among things. And this is the narrow-leaved goldenrod. This is most of what's out there, which hasn't quite bloomed. But in this particular picture, you see the buds, you see that fully bloomed, you see partially bloomed. And this is what it looked like on Thursday. I'm sure this week, this is all going to be beautiful yellow. And this is what they call the flat-topped goldenrod, where the branches all come out so that they make what looks like a table or a top to the plant, or a saucer in this case, but often they're flatter looking. But this is so there's the branch, the flat topped, and the clubbed. This is the flat top. Narrow leaved goldenrod, that's what's gonna go full bloom this week. Just again, some of the forms. Here's all the narrow leaved around it, fairly short, and then this tall branching type here, twice as tall, and then this single club form. So again, three different forms all here, flat top, branching, club. And if you see the goldenrod that's at the beaches, which hasn't quite started blooming yet, has very thick leaves, it also is a club type, and that is the seaside goldenrod. You don't usually see that in a field like this. You really see it at dunes and on the base of the sandy dune edges. So monarchs everywhere also. They were not too prevalent last week, but I didn't have any trouble finding them. This one is a male, which you can tell because of a wide spot right here on this vein. Even though it's the underside, you can tell it's wide. And then we have this one, it's very thick veining, so that is a female. And this is the same female, a different pose, but just amazing to see the monarch butterflies out there. And this particular one, let's see, yeah, you can see this is antenna, this is antenna, this is tongue reaching down into the goldenrod. Quite amazing. I believe they call it the proboscis, but it's a tongue. And so the monarchs were beautiful. There's some low climbing, sort of viney type vegetation out there. There's a pile of rocks, and it has some of this around it. This is climbing false buckwheat. This is in the false buckwheat family, or the buckwheat family. This is a close-up. These are the seed packets. So that little green, that's where the little seed is for this. The beautiful red stems, and you see this quite a bit around the island. It's all blooming and going to seed right now. So false climbing false buckwheat out along the edge of the field. The path just winds through. This is the path that I said I had to go through as opposed to going through the field, which is my preference, but you can't really do that unless it's just been mowed. In the old days, the path used to be mowed that way, but now it's mowed along the edge. So this is the rocky area where there's a lot of that climbing false buckwheat. Now you go over this little ridge and you come down the other side, and here's the view you can have on the other side of that hill, looking back at Elizabeth Dickens' farmhouse. Of course, a lot of panic grass in here as well, switchgrass, which I've been talking about a lot this season. But Elizabeth Dickens, for anybody who doesn't know, was known as the Bird Lady of Block Island. She is was a self-taught ornithologist. She taught bird study in the Black Island schools, of which when she started in 1912, there were 5. And then in 1933, the school consolidated into the school that we have today. And then she used to go to the classrooms and teach bird study once a month and talk to the students about birds that they may have seen and ask for their bird list. Sometimes she would get little films about birds from the Audubon Society of Rhode Island, and the admission to see the film was your bird list. So she was just trying to encourage people to be aware of the birds on Black Island. And I think she was successful in the end, in the long run, to get the boys and men of Black Island not to shoot birds out of season and not to shoot birds for which there was no season. Of course, in the early 1900s, it was pretty commonplace to shoot a bird if you didn't know what it was, to see what it was. So she was pretty successful at ending that. So Elizabeth Dickens has a bird collection at the Black Island School. It has about 175 stuffed mounted bird specimens that are used with the classes there. And in the past and in the future, I will be using those birds to teach 2nd grade and 4th grade, and occasionally high school students who are doing special projects. So it's still an active collection and a great treasure for Block Island. And I could do a whole program on Elizabeth Dickens, so I'll spare you that today, and perhaps that'll be a wintertime project. There's some of the switchgrass I've been talking about. It's starting to hit its full stride. It's a big clumping grass, beautiful, leaves are now curling off, and the seed heads, such as you see here, are starting to even get so laden with seeds that they're bending over. And these become a great seed source for food for birds in the late fall and throughout the winter. And so these fields are full of these warm season grasses, of which the switchgrass or the panic grass is a primary structure for that. And all of this, this is all unblooming narrow-leaved goldenrod. The taller ones are blooming, but the narrow-leaved, you gotta wait till today and tomorrow. Saw another butterfly out there, something called the common Buckeye butterfly, which I'd never really noticed before. What a beautiful butterfly. Again, it's interesting. I thought at first I had the upper of the wings and the under, but when I looked at this one closely, I realized that I happened to get the camera shot that is looking straight on the edge of this wing. So this is also the upper of what would be the right-handed wing. And this is the straight on looking edge. And then here's the body. And of course, the antennae here. And right here, it's tongue, proboscis, probing into the goldenrod. But a gorgeous, gorgeous butterfly that I actually hadn't noticed before. So was happy to come upon it. When you get towards the end of the bluff, at the end of the trail, you come upon this rock in gratitude to Margaret Meese and family, who dedicated a lot of, let's see, what does it says? Generous protectors of Block Island nature. And her family was made substantial gifts to make the acquisition of the Lewis-Dickens Farm possible. And this rock needs to be moved back because the edge is getting very close. And I do not recommend walking out to this edge. It is, in spite of the fact that obviously it's been walked out to a lot, it is very deeply undercut here. And you don't have to walk out. You could just look here and I'll give you the view. If you're looking off to the west, Montauk would be over here. This is the view. You can see it's a very sandy bluff. So it erodes quite readily with wind-driven rain and sand. And over here, looking to the east, very interesting to look at, but it really shouldn't be as close as I am when I'm taking this picture. Here you can see a little bit of the overhang. Whenever you're near a bluff on Block Island, do not go near the edge, because when you're at the edge, there's nothing underneath you. All right, but wonderful bands of striations. This is coarser material. This is thinner material. All of that gives place for water to flow into and erode away the edge of the bluff. So we've made it to the end of the path. And I'm not going to make you go all the way back, but it's when you get here, you turn around and go back. And when you do that, you can have the most beautiful view looking the other way. And all the views that you've had coming, you can now have going. And again, the panic grass. And I'm sure today, tomorrow, throughout the week, it's going to be beautiful. So I really encourage anybody on Block Island to go out to the Dickens Farm this week. It's going to be gorgeous. And think of Elizabeth Dickens and all that she did for Block Island and is still doing today with her bird collection. So September sightings beyond what you can see at Dickens Farm. Many of you know I'm a licensed bird bander, so I have been banding birds. Fall migration is starting up. On the this bird here on the left is a red-eyed vireo, but it doesn't have a red eye, and that's because it's young. So why doesn't that red-eyed vireo have a red eye? It's a hatching year bird, but there's quite a few of them around as of Saturday. So you might see those flitting around. It's very greeny, gray, beautiful little bird. And this guy, Common Yellowthroat, this is an old friend. We got this in the nets on Saturday, and it was first banded in 2011. And it's been encountered 7 times, and most recently this weekend. When it was first banded, it's what we call an after hatching year. So it was in at least its second year. You can't tell for sure. So that means that it is at least 11 years old. According to the Bird Banding Lab, the oldest common yellowthroat recorded is 11 years and 2 months. I think this one's going to beat it. So this may be a record-holding age for the common yellowthroat, as long as I remember to submit the data. But it's still an old friend. This bird migrates, I would say it's used to be called the Maryland yellowthroat. So it winters southeast United States down into the Caribbean and Bahamas. So it could be 1,000 miles, and it migrates in the winter to warm weather, and then it comes back in the summer for breeding, and it's an amazing thing. These birds who breed here come back to Block Island. We say they come back to New England. No. They come to Rhode Island. No. They come to Block Island. Yes. They come to these fields at Clay Head and Block Island. Very loyal to their sites. So an old friend, common yellowthroat, at least 11 years old, in the hand this weekend. Also on Block Island this week, Portuguese Man-of-War. Do not touch these. They have, they're very interesting animal. They have long stingers along their tentacles for stinging fish, which they then, once they kill the fish, they draw the tentacle up into its its mouth and digestive part. What's amazing about this animal is that it's actually it's a colony, let's see, it's colonial. There are 4 parts, 4 colonies that make up this organism. The bladder, which is for floating, the tentacles, which is for catching fish. It has a digestive colony for eating the food and a reproductive colony for reproduction. So it's a very cool animal. It also gives a powerful sting. People have died from it, although it's more likely to kill a fish than a person, but it's a very painful sting. So, okay, I guess I was ready to move on. So tomorrow at 9:31 a.m. will be the first day of fall for many, like me. It's my favorite season. And so we've got some fall colors coming, and these are also things that have been seen this week. Chicken of the woods, which is a shelf fungus. It's really a beautiful, beautiful fungus. It's sometimes called a sulfur fungus. It used to be polyporous sulfurous, but they changed its name. But polyporous referred to the fact that it was a pore, many pored fungus as opposed to a gilled fungus. But gorgeous, and don't try it because I said so, but it is delicious. And of course, milkweed pods are starting to dry out and split open, and the seeds. Here's a perfect looking one. Here's the seed, and it has this great little parachute that's going to take it and spread and disperse the seeds all over the island, which are great for the monarch butterflies. And of course, we could not end without our bird list. The day I did the walk, and I did have a merlin, which is a migrating small falcon, go straight by me when I was on Dickens Farm. So I figured the merlin is a good bird to illustrate the list this particular week. Thing about falcons, you always look for these little sideburns, and they tend to have very pointed wings, and they're fast. And a merlin loves to follow a pathway or a road. So if you are looking at a fast raptor that's following a path or the road in front of your car, in all likelihood, it's a merlin. It could be peregrine, but probably a merlin. And with that, I'll stop and take any questions or comments, and hope you enjoyed it.
Great. Well, thanks, Kim. I think I've unmuted people if anyone wants to chime in, but that was great, Kim. I loved all the colors. The photos were great. Really.
Thanks.
Yeah, fabulous.
It's a beautiful spot. Go there.
Yeah.
Go there this week.
Yeah. So anyone wants to chime in with any questions or comments, feel free.
You can always follow up with an email if you have other questions.
Yeah. I saw one globe
I think
afterwards.
Josie might be muted.
Oh, are you? Oh, I'm sorry. Nope, you're not muted, Josie. Unless you muted yourself. Oh. I
So
know.
Kim, this is Judy while you're trying to get Josie. I don't have a question, but I want to tell you I miss you a lot. And this is almost, not really quite, like going for the walk with you. I can't wait till we can do it again.
I can't wait either. I miss you too, Judy. Soon, I hope.
Josie, I don't know what's going on. I'm sorry, but maybe if you have a question.
I think you can hear me. Can you hear me now?
We can. We can.
Okay. I was trying to touch my laptop screen. That was the problem with my finger. So I was fascinated by the Portuguese Man-of-War, especially wrapped around the fish. And
Yeah,
it
you
being
like
called
that.
a colonial animal.
Yeah.
And I tried to make notes quickly, and I've lost one of them, the colonies. So bladder, reproductive, stomach,
Digestive or stomach.
digestive, and what's the fourth?
Tentacles.
Ah, those long tentacles.
Yep.
Thank you.
With their toxic stingers. That picture was taken by Drew Whelan, who's a great birder. He lives on the island. And I got that photo from him. I think I did mark it as from him, but he saw that washed up on the beach with the fish in the tentacles.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love that. Amazing.
Yeah. He taught me something new, which was how to make a screenshot from his Instagram so that I could use that photo, which took me about an hour and a half, but I got it. And
Excellent.
Good skill to learn.
What about the orbs? What about the orbs, please, which I didn't
Oh, I only
find.
saw one at the sign after that, Kim. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. There was one more.
I'm sure there was. I wasn't looking. I was looking at your other
There were
photo.
3 total, so if people go back and look, there were 3 total
Okay.
views of orbs hidden in likely spots where somebody would hide an orb. They're hints, they're not actual.
Okay. More encouragement. We haven't had any blazing stars. Maybe we did, but I haven't seen them.
At the last one, I showed some that were budding, and then I was going to
Okay.
include one blooming in this presentation, but I felt like I was going a little long, so I
Never.
didn't.
Well, Kim, file that data. I said I want you on the cover of the Audubon magazine fast.
Yeah, that's
Get that
great.
little-
We have one more year to go though, right? This bird's got to make it back next year.
No, I
No,
think
no,
it
but he's
might.
already broken the record.
Oh, it has? You think?
The record is for 11 years, 2 months, and this is likely. This is after 11, so if it
Okay.
is 11, that meant it was hatched in most likely in June.
Okay.
So then it would be July, August, September, 3 months.
Okay. All
So
right.
it's at least 11, 3 months. But when you age a bird after the first time as an after hatching year, it could be 3, it could be 4. You don't know. We just know that it's not 1.
Okay.
So it's a minimal.
Okay.
Fantastic.
That's great. So Kim, we're not going to be able to do this until October, right? So our next one of these is October 19th, Monday, 9 o'clock is our time, and we're going to Bean Point, right?
Right, we're going to go to Bean Point, and we're going to go from West Beach path to Bean Point and back through Andy's Way.
Oh, great. Oh, great. That'll be great.
It's going to be a big loop.
Okay.
Yep, so that should be good.
Great.
Maybe we'll have a few migrating shorebirds.
Fantastic. I'm sorry I have to leave.
You can watch it from the mainland. Oh, but anyway.
No, I'll be back. I'm going to come back for that. Whatever.
Okay.
But I'm
sounds
going to
good.
leave now. I'm sorry.
Oh, gotta
Thank
leave
you,
now. No
Kim.
problem. Well, thanks everyone. If there aren't any other questions, I think we'll call it a day unless there's any other questions or comments. Oh,
Okay, thanks everybody.
all right. Well, thanks, Kim. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Kim.
Polly, are you here? Wait, Polly, are you here yet?
Thanks, you.
Yes. Kim,
You
I have
are?
a question for you. No,
Okay.
not yet.
Oh, yeah.
Kim, do you hear me?
Yep.
I have a very naive question because I don't know much about anything, but
Okay.
the berries that we're seeing, the blackberries, some of them are red and some of them are black. Are those edible?
So there's a lot of berries that are in that range right now. There's the chokeberries that I showed. They are edible, but they're sour. There's pokeberry, which grows on a tall, and it's like a clump of berries, and it grows on a tall stem. Those are very edible to birds. I don't know if they're edible to people, but it's chokeberry. No, wait, pokeberry, P-O-K-E. And there's the viburnum is starting to turn dark blue black, and that is a hard berry. It's not, as far as I know, edible for humans, but again, it is a big food source for birds. There may be some others, but those are the 3 that come immediately to mind.
Okay, so not to just indiscriminately eat those berries.
I
have another question. The red round, it's like tiny red round ball. What are those?
Do they look like tomatoes?
Yes, tiny. Yes.
They look like little. Those are called rose hips. Rose hips. And the rose hips that are on the beach roses are bigger and they are edible, but they've got a lot of seed in them. Most people use them to make jelly out of.
Uh-huh.
The other rose hips, like from Rosa rugosa, they're much smaller. A person wouldn't spend much time on them, but they're just the same format. Basically it's the ovary of the flower, and the seeds are inside of it. So only the beach roses are really big enough to bother with, but they are very edible. They're the highest natural source of vitamin C. And sometimes when you buy vitamins and it says with natural rosehip vitamin C, that's where they're coming from.
And the leaves, can you make tea out of the leaves?
I wouldn't. The leaves are pretty, prickery. If I were making tea, I'd take the hip itself, I'd mash it, steep it in hot water. And I have done that.
Okay. Better wait till I know more.
You have to strain a lot of tough skin and fuzzy seeds through your teeth, so it's easier if you have a tea ball to put it in.
Okay. Got it. Thanks. Okay. Great.
There may be some beach plums around, but those are fair. I haven't heard anybody say it's been a good year for beach plums. And those are back dune, little tiny plums. They're pretty well known. They would be a dark blue berry. They're very edible, usually made for fruit for jelly. And it's sort of like your best clamming spot. I could tell you where it is, but then I'd have to kill you.
I don't clam, so it's okay. You don't have to worry about me. I'm safe. Okay.
I take all the questions you can hurdle.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, great. Thanks so much. Okay, have
You're
a good
welcome.
day, everyone.
Yeah, you too. So Polly, you and Sam should go out to Dickens Farm.
Yeah, no, we're not out here yet.
Oh, you're not out here. I thought you said you were.
No,
Sounds great, though.
Are you still coming?
we hope to.
Okay, because as you know, that's also a terrific raptor spot as the month goes on.
Great.
Yeah, they love hunting all of them, the peregrines, the merlins, the kestrels. They just stream by there, and it's a great spot for raptors.
Oh, that's great.
We'll just have to do all that.
You'll have to do that. I'm not very good at filming those on the fly.
They're fast movers.
Yeah.
All right.
Well,
Kim.
this series has been wonderful. It's just been a great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Kim, I think with that, we'll leave the meeting. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Looking forward to next month. Okay,
Yep.
take care.
See you
Bye-bye.
all.